Tyler just signed the most expensive contract of his life. He has no idea. He's standing in his new driveway on a Tuesday afternoon, keys dangling from his right hand, grinning like a man who just beat the system. His mother cried at the closing table. His father shook his hand twice. The real estate agent took a photo. By the time Tyler got home to his home, as he kept saying it in his head, he had 47 texts waiting for him. "Proud of you. You made it. You're a real adult now." He posted a picture with the keys and the front door, and it got 200 likes before dinner. 3 miles away, Aaron was on his laptop in a rented apartment. No celebration, no photo, just a brokerage account, a coffee going cold, and a quiet Thursday evening with the market charts. They both thought they made the right call, but only one of them actually read what they signed. One has a deed, one has a brokerage account. They are not the same thing. Tyler and Aaron are 30 years old. Same income, $65,000 a year. Same savings, $40,000 each. But they made completely different decisions with that money. Tyler used $64,000 as a 20% down payment on a $320,000 home, locking in a 30-year mortgage at 7% interest. His monthly payment came out to $1,704. He felt like he had finally crossed the finish line into adulthood. His coworkers stopped him in the hallway. "You own a home?" they said, the way people say it when they're genuinely impressed. He updated his LinkedIn. He started watching home renovation videos on the weekend. Aaron did none of that. He kept his $1,500 a month apartment, put $500 every month into a low-cost index fund, and went on with his life. Nobody congratulated him. Nobody asked about his portfolio at dinner parties. His financial decisions were invisible, quiet, and deeply misunderstood by everyone around him. Tyler has a deed. Aaron has a brokerage account. One of these makes you feel rich. The other one actually makes you rich, and they are not always the same thing. The number nobody shows you: Tyler borrowed $256,000. Over 30 years, he will pay back $613,000. That number is printed in the loan documents. It's not hidden. It's right there on page 4 in a table called the amortization schedule, a document that almost nobody reads at a closing table because nobody hands you a highlighter and says, "Look at this part specifically." Tyler didn't read it. Neither did most of the people congratulating him. Here is what that table actually shows. In the very first month of Tyler's mortgage, his $1,704 payment breaks down like this. $1,493 goes directly to the bank as interest, and only $211 chips away at the actual debt. He is essentially renting money from the bank, and the bank is very good at pricing that rental. By year 5, he is still paying more than $1,400 per month in interest alone. It isn't until year 15, halfway through a 30-year loan, that he finally starts paying more principal than interest. And when year 30 arrives, Tyler will have handed the bank $613,000 for a house that was listed at $320,000. The difference, $357,000, is profit for the lender, pure interest. The bank made more money from Tyler's house than Tyler ever will. The bank doesn't give you a mortgage because they want to help you own a home. They give you a mortgage because 30 years of interest payments is the most profitable product they have ever invented. The real trap, the monthly payment, is $1,704. The real monthly cost is closer to $3,200. The mortgage is just the beginning. What the bank's brochure doesn't include, what no one mentions at the open house, is the full stack of costs that come attached to homeownership and never go away. Start with property taxes. The average U.S. property tax rate is 1.1% of home value annually. On a $320,000 home, that's $3,520 every single year, or $294 added to Tyler's monthly burden. Over 30 years, that's $105,600, and that figure only grows as the home appreciates. Then there is home insurance, which runs an average of $1,400 per year nationally, adding another $117 per month and another $42,000 over the life of the loan at minimum, before any claims or rate hikes. Then there are maintenance and repairs, and this is where the budget surprises people most. The standard rule in real estate is to reserve 1% of your home's value per year for upkeep. On a $320,000 house, that's $3,200 annually, $267 per month, just sitting in reserve for the things that will inevitably break. Over 30 years, that number reaches $96,000, and it never comes in neat installments. Some years, it's a $200 drain fix. Other years, it's a $12,000 roof replacement and a broken water heater in the same month, which is exactly what happened to Tyler in year 6. He hadn't built up the reserve. He put it on a credit card. And then there is opportunity cost, the quietest expense of all. Tyler locked $64,000 into a down payment on closing day. That money didn't disappear, but it stopped working. That same $64,000 invested in an index fund earning 10% annually over 30 years would grow to $1,115,000. He didn't lose it. He just gave up the chance to build it into something extraordinary. The monthly payment is $1,704. But the real cost of homeownership is closer to $2,800 to $3,200 to $3,200 every single month when you count everything the bank's brochure leaves out. Aaron never fixed a roof, never called a plumber at midnight, while Tyler was learning the difference between a load-bearing wall and a cosmetic one. Aaron was doing something far less interesting and far more profitable. In years 1 through 3, he kept putting $500 a month into index funds. His friends told him he was throwing money away on rent. His portfolio quietly grew to $22,000. Nobody invited him to a housewarming. He didn't have one to throw. By year 5, Tyler's home had appreciated to roughly $345,000, a number that made him feel wealthy. But his actual equity, the portion of the home he truly owned after years of payments, was only $38,000. He had sent $102,240 to the bank over 5 years, and the vast majority of it had been absorbed as interest. Aaron's portfolio, by contrast, had grown to $42,000. He got a raise that year and bumped his monthly contributions to $700. By year 10, Tyler's home was worth about $390,000, and his equity had grown to $95,000. He had also spent more than $35,000 beyond the mortgage in taxes, insurance, and repairs money that left his bank account and never came back. Aaron's portfolio was sitting between $145,000 and $160,000. He had never owned a single appliance. He had never called a plumber at midnight. Tyler's wealth is locked in one asset in one zip code that he cannot sell without becoming homeless. Aaron's wealth is liquid, diversified, and growing in his sleep. Section 6 year 30 final math. Tyler has a house. Aaron has a portfolio that pays for a house every month and still keeps growing. 30 years later, here is where both men stand. Tyler's home has appreciated at roughly 3% annually and is now worth somewhere between $650,000 and $750,000. That is a real asset, but his total payments to the bank came to $613,000. His hidden cost property taxes, insurance, and maintenance over 3 decades added another $243,600. All in, Tyler spent over $856,000 to own a home worth $700,000. Depending on the market, his net financial gain from the decision ranges from roughly $0 to negative $100,000. He owns a paid-off home, free and clear, with no debt and a roof over his head. That is not nothing. For many people, that stability is the whole point. Aaron's story looks different on paper. He invested between $500 and $700 a month for 30 years, a total of $198,000 in contributions. At a 10% average annual return, his portfolio is now worth between $1,100,000 and $1,300,000. He still rents, but his portfolio generates roughly $3,500 a month in returns. He pays rent with the interest, and the principal keeps compounding. He never owned a home. He owns the financial freedom to afford one whenever he decides he wants to. Tyler has a house. Aaron has a portfolio that pays for a house every month and still keeps growing. Neither of them is wrong, but only one of them knew what game they were actually playing. The mortgage isn't the trap. Not understanding what you signed, that's the trap. None of this is meant to say that buying a home is a mistake. It isn't under the right conditions. If you plan to stay in the same city for 7 or more years, buying starts to make financial sense because the break-even point on transaction costs and early interest typically falls around year 6 or 7. If you purchased in a high appreciation market, a coastal city, a growing metro, a neighborhood on the edge of transformation, the math changes dramatically in your favor. If you know yourself well enough to know that you will not invest the difference between a mortgage and rent, then a mortgage functions as forced savings, and forced savings beats no savings every time. And if you can rent out a room or a unit, you can turn the bank's product into your own income stream. Renting and investing wins when you move every 3 to 5 years for your career, when rent in your city is meaningfully cheaper than the equivalent mortgage, when you have the actual discipline to invest the difference, and when you genuinely value liquidity and flexibility over the stability of ownership. Both paths are legitimate. The only losing move is taking either path without understanding the full terms of the agreement. The mortgage isn't the trap. Signing a 30-year contract without understanding what you actually agreed to, that's the trap. The villain was never homeownership. The villain is the illusion, the idea, sold aggressively and repeatedly by the same industry that profits from your interest payments, that a 30-year mortgage is the only legitimate path to wealth in America. It isn't. Tyler isn't foolish. He just walked into the most consequential financial decision of his adult life without reading page 4. That's not a character flaw. It's what happens when no one ever hands you a highlighter and explains what the amortization schedule actually means. Before you sign, ask yourself one thing. Are you buying a home or are you buying the bank 30 years of your income? And if you think your 401k is keeping you safe from all of this, there is something your employer has never told you. That is the next video.